Welcome to Behind the Smile with Ash Butterss, a podcast designed to reveal the truth behind the masks we wear. Together, we look to demystify the human mind and its behaviours in relation to mental health, trauma and addiction. My name's Ash and I'll be your host as we uncover the real stories of people's pain and the steps they've taken to live a life of freedom in recovery. From sobriety to spirituality, join me each week as we uncover the reasons why people seek recovery and how their lives have changed by living one day at a time. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today I'm being joined by Fausto Castellanos. Fausto is a spiritual advisor, clinical counsellor and motivational speaker who is commonly referred to as the hope dealer. Fausto found a way to find purpose in his pain by creating a mindset that everything he went through was to help others grow through. Fausto has swapped his old destructive addictions for a new addiction, which is helping people to find purpose and healing. Now, dialing in from the west coast of the US, I'd love to welcome Fausto onto the show. So Fausto, welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you doing today?
Oh man, after that introduction, my day's perfect now. That's all I gotta say.
Wouldn't it be nice if that played every time you entered a room?
100%. I mean, I think I'll just pay you like $100 a day to call me every morning and tell me that.
Good morning, like an automatic record. Yeah, we
Right?
can work something out for sure. It's so cool to finally connect and meet with you. We sort of connected through Instagram, and I absolutely love that the work that you're doing in the recovery space, and we're going to dive into all of that today. But before we do, I would love for our audience just to have the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. So can we kick it off with, where exactly do you live? What does an average day look like? And what do you do for fun?
Yeah. So I live in Orange County, California, in the United States, which is by Disneyland. If anyone knows what Disneyland is, right by there.
Great.
And the second question was,
what does an average day look like for you?
There you go. Sorry, I got ADD, so I'm already like forgetting.
That's okay.
But an average day for me, wow, that's a difficult one because I never really have an average day. So I'll share an example. Yesterday, I wake up, I drive 30 minutes out of my way to go do a podcast. I bring 3 people with me to kind of, help them meet people too, to help them in the future. And then from there, I drive 30 minutes again to go back home. I eat my meal prep because I'm all about eating healthy. And then from there, I create flyers for my future events. I edit videos for reels. And then from there, I drive an hour to go to work where I do, counseling to run group therapy at an addiction treatment center. And then from there, I'll drive an hour to go do some boxing because that's my self-care, is my fitness. And then while I'm there, I'm also giving out counseling sessions to my trainer. That's just how I am. And from there, I'll drive an hour to go meet with a sponsee, go over some step work. From there, I'll drive another hour to go speak at a homeless shelter. And I'm there for a couple hours, making sure I show up early, stay late. And then from there, I drive all the way to LA, which is another hour, to go make sure that I make time for my partner. Because I believe that you got to put your partner as a priority, even if you have purpose in life. Because I believe part of your purpose is to water your love life. So that's like a typical day for me, really like Monday through Sunday. It's just back-to-back stuff, giving back. And what I like to do for fun, this has always been a difficult question for me because I know how to help out. I don't know how to hang out. So to have fun for me, even though I have 6 years of sobriety coming up next week, it's difficult because to me, having fun is helping people. But I know I can't make it always about that. So honestly, I think it's still something I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being so honest about that. Because it is hard to find balance, isn't it? I know that I can really lean a lot into work because I find work fun, but it's using a different part of my brain than if I was just to say socialize with people or go and get a treatment and really switch off. So I do think it's important to be able to find the balance, but it's certainly not something that I've perfected. So it's really cool to hear that you're in a similar situation.
Yeah.
How do you not run out of steam? Because they sound like really full days.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a problem, right? Because there's burnout and then there's compassion fatigue. They're different.
Mm.
Burnout is just, you're just stressed out from doing a lot. Compassion fatigue is when you're dealing with people's trauma and then now you get traumatized by their trauma. So for me, it's like, in order to find balance, I think as long as I'm not running into compassion fatigue, then I can do a lot. But also, I have to be very careful with doing a lot because I get excited. I just want to help everybody. I want to save the world. So that's something I'm still learning too, because last year I almost died. I had a grand mal seizure, stress induced, and I was half brain dead for a month.
You're
And
kidding
that's,
me.
yeah. So my whole journey has been me trying to slow down. I like have it on my knuckles to slow down.
You do, yeah.
I
Oh
do.
my gosh. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm always
Wow.
trying to learn how to find balance. I think in this season of my life, I'm doing the best. Like I'm still doing a lot, but I'm not tired because
Mm.
I work out 3 to 5 times a week for me. I go to a massage therapist about once a month to get deep tissue. I go to the
Right.
chiropractor once a week. I do the stretch lab once a week or once every 2 weeks. I meal prep. And as long as I'm doing that and I have at least one day a week where it's like I just don't exist, right? Like here, my phone's off. I'm going home. I'm going to put on Marvel movies because it has nothing to do with saving. I mean, it kind of, well, actually, kind of just have to do with saving the world, but you know, it's more
Someone
fun.
else's problem.
Someone else's problems, and I could just kind of check out. Then,
Yeah.
as long as I do that, then I can do a lot and not have to worry about like dissociating and then, not being present.
Mm, mm. And you just mentioned then you're going to be 6 years clean and sober next week, which
Yeah.
is incredible.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Happy
Thank you.
early sobriety birthday. We get told in early recovery that recovery has to come first. And if we don't put it first, nothing else will be there anyway after. So that was what was drilled into me. Tell me, at 6 years sober, are you still putting recovery first in that lineup of everything that you're doing in a day? Where is the priority for your own personal recovery?
Yeah. 100%. It's always first. Even with coming up on 6 years, one meeting a week is ideal for me right now. And I always have to have a sponsee that I'm walking through the steps. So
Mm.
if I get a sponsee and they're done with the steps, my priority is to pick up a new one. And I need to do that because it doesn't matter that I'm a counselor. It doesn't matter that I do group therapy, motivational speaker, social media, all that stuff you either get paid for. It's to be seen. It's entertainment, you would say. And so I have to keep that consistent in my life or I'll lose everything in my life. Because I've tried like to like, maybe I don't need to do it as much. Like, I don't want to have a sponsor right now. I kind of like this. I don't want to go to a meeting. I'd rather use that time to work out more or hang out with my girlfriend more. But what happens after about a month or two, I just notice like I hate everybody. Everyone's annoying to me.
Yes.
I start thinking I don't have a drinking problem. I think I'm just chemically dependent. I'm not an alcoholic. And I'm like, yeah, and I won't do drugs. Like, I get it, because if I do drugs, that's bad. But I can drink because I don't want to get a DUI. I wouldn't drink and drive. I can pay for Uber now. But see, that's what I got to be careful of because when I fall into that type of thinking, I'm like 1 second away from just losing everything because I know it's never enough.
Mm.
Everything I do is never enough. So why would it be different for alcohol?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I relate so much to that, and especially when I'm in the book and doing step work with a sponsee,
Yeah,
I know that I'm always at the best version of myself. And so often it's when, you think you're too tired or you think you're too busy or I've got too much happening right now. And we can almost convince ourselves of our self-importance. And then
yeah,
all of a sudden you get back in the book with the sponsee and it's humbling, it's service, and it
yeah,
reminds you of why you need to stay sober. So it's so
yeah.
powerful on so many levels.
Like for example, just real quick, I was going over the 4 step with my sponsee, and he has 4 months sober, and we were going over his defects of character, and one of them was overcompensating, right? And he was like, "Yeah, I think this is him talking. He's like, I think being a social media influencer, getting famous on TikTok and being on MTV and all these shows, he's like, I think that was never me. I just did that to feel seen. He's like, because honestly, he's like, I don't like doing it. He's like, I think that's why I never really do anything with it. He's like, I get there to that top. He has all the top YouTubers too, like they have him on their show, and he's like, I just don't follow through. I blow it up. He's like, I honestly think I just want to stay home, be on my computer, do day trading, and work out for me. hike for me and never make a video again. And it hit me because I was like, am I doing that? You know, because
Holds
me and
up the
him were,
mirror. Yeah.
yeah, because me and him are so similar. We're the same personality type. We're ENFPs on the Myers-Briggs, same. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, is that why I do so much? Is that why I help so much?
Mm,
Is that why I became a social media influencer and a motivational speaker? Because I wanted to feel seen. Because for me,
mm,
the only way I could build connection was through attention. You see? So now that I know I don't need to seek attention, all of a sudden, when I keep on seeking attention, it's almost like tiring for me. Because, you know, I'm like, dude, why am I doing this? Why am I speaking? And so, like you said, yeah, who knows what's going to happen in my 6 years now, but that hit me really deeply.
yeah. So for me, I understand that need for attention. I really relate to it first and
Yeah.
foremost, Fausto. For me, it played out in approval seeking, people pleasing, and also perfectionism. And what I found in my sobriety is, alcohol was so helpful in the early days for me because it really helped to quieten the inner critic, which
Yeah.
drove that need for validation
Yeah.
externally. I was incapable of validating myself. I had no self-esteem. I'm really curious to know, how do you get that if you're not going outwards to seek approval? How do you self-validate and build your own self-esteem?
Yeah. I think that's always been a struggle for me in these 6 years because I struggle with conditional self worth, right? If you like me, I like me. I'm only as good as my last hit, I always say. And so I think for me, it's almost like this paradox. When I slow down and I take care of me, like I said, eat right, exercise, date night once a week, sleep good, you know, work with a sponsee where it's for them, not for me, where I go to an AA meeting and I don't share. I sit there to listen, right? And I'm there for the newcomers. When I have that formula like that, I tend to feel worthy. You know what I mean? It's weird, but it's hard because like to slow down means I need to sit with those thoughts of the inner critic. And when I move fast, I can ignore it. But if I can get past the inner critic and I just stay consistent with slowing down, all of a sudden I just feel good about life. And so I
Mm.
think it's just about me understanding that like if I keep that consistent and get past that negative inner critic, then the self-worth will come in because I learned as a counselor, self-worth is measured by your ability to say no and your boundaries you make. So when I lack boundaries, because I'm saying yes to every speaking event, every social media thing, every podcast, every church event, every meeting, all of a sudden I'm saying yes too much. And now I have conditional self worth. And then when I start to say no to everything and I get past that negative inner critic, all of a sudden, because I'm consistent with taking care of me, all of a sudden I feel good enough.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's just that beautiful saying, isn't it? Chop wood, carry water, do the things, and all of a sudden the externals will fall into place. You don't need to worry
Yeah.
about it. Like, it's just about kind of nourishing yourself from within by doing those esteemable acts. That's certainly been the case for me as well. Now, Fausto, I've asked you to bring in a photo today, and I'd love to talk about it now. So, this
Yeah.
photo was from a time in your life where you are hiding behind a smile. So, your insides didn't match your outsides, and you were projecting one version of yourself to the outside world. But the reality was you were struggling on the inside. Now, I'd love for you to please describe what we're looking at in this photo today and what was going on for you at that particular time in your life.
Yeah, so in this photo, you see me, I look excited, and there's actually a DJ table in front of me. There's turntables. So I was DJing a house party with all my friends, you know, drinking, smoking weed, and just partying, having a good time, right? Because I'm the DJ for the whole place, and I get to control the music, control the vibe, and I'm there with the girl that I was dating at the time, right? So like, I have arrived. But the reality is that that picture, all of it was me just to overcompensate. You know what I mean? It was, how do I feel seen at this house party? Be the DJ. So I learned how to DJ. All right, Fausto, I see you have tattoos on your hands because you're for some reason showing it off in the picture. Well, yeah, I got tattoos on my body because I thought getting tattoos will get me attention, right? It make me cool. 3, I got a girlfriend, so that means I'm lovable because a girl likes me. And being drunk, what does it do? It removes my social anxiety. It removes my lack of confidence, and it makes me feel connected. So it looked like I was everybody's friend, the life of the party, like everything was perfect. But the reality was it was just me overcompensating for feeling insecure, not good enough, ugly, unlovable. And that's what was really going on in any photo of me partying. That's why I partied like 5 days a week, because it was the only way for me to fix that thing inside of me that was haunting me since I was a child.
It's that almost like that escapism from reality.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just mentioned then that you've been feeling like that since you were a child. So I'd love to take it back now. Fausto, can you share with me what significant moments occurred throughout your childhood that influenced the person that you became?
Yeah, growing up, I grew up with a narcissistic father. So my dad was selfish, self-centered, gaslighting, always angry, created this environment of walking on eggshells. And so I wasn't safe at home. I never knew what my dad was how he was gonna be. So I was always filled with anxiety. And my dad not being around and cheating on my mom. I mean, I really didn't know what was going on, but I just felt this sense of emptiness and loneliness and like just not like a priority. And my mom was amazing, but you always want the love from the parent who didn't give it to you. And so it didn't matter how nice my mom was to me. I wanted my father, especially being a male, right? I want the father figure, because I would see kids with their dads taking them to school, their dads showing up to the stuff, them having the cool dads. So I would overcompensate by, hanging out with male friends, older ones especially. Like if any like older kid, like in school, elementary school, give me attention, I was like, oh, that's cool. And so I was always seeking male attention. And when I would seek male attention, I remember I was about 7 years old, and one of the kids from my apartment complex sexually abused me. And when it happened, it wasn't like it was traumatic. When it happened, I felt visible for the first time. Some boy was
Wow.
giving me attention, and whatever was happening, I don't know what's going on, but I feel visible because I felt invisible this whole time. And so it wasn't until the next day where the kid went back to bullying me that I was confused. Like, oh, did I do something wrong? Because why are you treating me different? Yesterday you were acting different. You went from bullying me to giving me all this attention that one night, and now you're bullying me again. So I thought it was my fault. And so I developed fear, shame, and guilt in that moment. And I told myself, I will never allow myself to feel vulnerable again. So I developed to be the know it all, people pleaser, the class clown, and manipulator. And I carried those traits with me throughout elementary school. And then after doing that throughout elementary school, that's when I started, losing myself. Like you know what I mean? I was just playing these parts, but it was working because I wasn't ever feeling vulnerable. And then I get into middle school, and the next thing that fixed me was a girlfriend. Because see, I thought, well, this girl likes me, which means that guy didn't touch me. You see what I mean? Because it really made me question my sexuality. I had no idea what was going on. And so as I'm going into middle school, I get this girlfriend. All of a sudden, I'm like, I'm fixed. I'm fixed. That's when I get into middle school. I'm dating this girl. I'm fixed. And all of a sudden, the world is beautiful again. The problem was when this girl left me, breaks up, typical breakup, nothing bad, but at the time, oh, it was the end of my world because that was supposed to be my future wife, you know? But I
Yeah.
took it in so deeply because I thought she left me because I was sexually abused by a boy. That's what I thought in my head. So I was like, oh my gosh, she must have saw that thing that is living inside of me, that pain, that insecurity, that fragileness. So from that moment, I said, okay, how do I fix this? And so I became a punk rocker in the summer, meet a girl, and all of a sudden I become a punk rocker in the summer, and then I meet a girl in eighth grade. So now I'm like, okay, I'm fixed. I got it. I'm fixed. We're good. Until she breaks out with me, and then I go, oh my gosh, she knows too. So then I spiral again, become a skateboarder. I start working out. I was like, maybe this is the formula. I get in ninth grade, and I meet a girl, and I'm fixed. She breaks out with me, and then I really think, wow, she knows too. So as you can see, it's like these three breakups were really traumatizing me because I thought it was because I was sexually abused by a boy, and they saw what I felt inside, that I was not manly enough, I wasn't clean enough. So then from there, I spiraled, and I was like, dude, how do I get out of school? So I faked my death. That didn't work. That's a whole
What?
nother story.
Oh my gosh, can you tell me? I wasn't expecting that. Hey, let's
So,
pause. How did you fake your own death?
okay, so and back in 2007, YouTube came out, and I was already tech savvy. So I was already making funny videos before YouTube. So I made a video of a car crash, Incubus music to make it emotional. And I had a picture of me from fourth grade when I was in the hospital from a concussion. And I literally put it out on MySpace. And it said, rest in peace, Fausto died. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, cool. The problem is, everyone showed up at my house. And
Oh my
everybody, when they
goodness.
saw me, they were so pissed. They were like, why would you do that? I get it now. Like, that was totally not something cool to do. But in my head as a kid, I was just, I was ignorant. I was like, oh, let me just make this video and get out of class.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And then
Wow. Okay.
the next day I told my teacher, because I didn't work, I was like, hey, teacher, I'm hearing voices to kill people. Can I go home? Thinking, right? Not thinking straight, just thinking like this will get me off of school for a day. That's all I'm thinking. So they sent me to the psych ward. I get 51 to 15. They extend it 5250, which is 14 days because I'm saying I'm not crazy. And they're like, oh, that's what they all say.
Yeah.
You know? So they extend it. So I have to I have to basically pretend I'm crazy in there and slowly become sane to get out. So I get out of class, I get out of the psych ward, and I get my wish. They're like, hey, you don't have to go to school anymore. You can do independent studies. So it worked. And
Mm.
when I was in that, now you got to think about it. I don't have to go to school, so I don't have to face my anxiety about getting my heart broken. I don't have to go to school and just feel like I'm always walking on eggshells because I started to think that everybody knew I was molested. That's what I thought in my head. And so to me, it was like my escape. Instead of facing it, I'm going to avoid it.
Mm.
And then that's when I got into drinking because somebody said, hey, do you drink? And since I knew I didn't have to go to school anymore, I felt a little bit more confident in lying and saying, oh, yeah, I drink all the time. Because I knew if I was to drink, at least I wouldn't have to go to school and get caught.
Mm.
So that's how I got into drinking was just one day drink some Jack Daniels. We took a shot. And I remember after the third shot, I was like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, I feel
Mm.
confident. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel connected. I have no anxiety. I feel like I could talk to everybody in this room that I'm drinking with. And guess what? My past doesn't matter all of a sudden. And this was the
Mm.
first time in my life that I wanted to live. Because I've been wanting to kill myself since a kid because of that anxiety, walking on eggshells, always not feeling good enough. And so to me, alcohol was like God, you would say, right? It was God to me. I found God through alcohol.
Mm.
And that's what started my drinking.
My goodness. Can I ask, when you were sexually abused by that boy, did you tell anyone at the time?
No, because I thought it was my fault. That's the reason why I didn't open up about it because I thought it was my fault. So I just kind of kept it a secret.
Mm, mm. And when did you start talking about it?
So I actually don't remember it. I blacked out because I didn't remember it till I was 25 and got sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those instances where you had these girlfriends, it was like you thought they could see something in you that was like this
Yeah.
darkness that you hadn't even verbalized, but the fear and your own thoughts were
Yeah.
telling you otherwise. Wow.
Yeah.
That must have just been so painful. I'm really sorry. Fausto, who are you drinking with? I'm really curious because you said that you stopped going to school. Were you still hanging out with kids at school and drinking on the weekends, or did you start running with a different pack?
Same friends, the same friends I grew up with. It's just that everybody started getting into drinking and smoking pot in ninth grade. That was the
Mm,
thing. Because we were always like skateboarding, sports, just hanging out, going to the mall, going to the movie theaters. But ninth grade is when my friends all started getting into drinking, smoking pot. And so when they brought me to it, I did it. I loved it. Smoked some pot right after that. Hated it because it makes me paranoid. I'm not the guy that can smoke pot and function. I smoke pot and I'm like drooling on myself. Everyone's staring at me.
Same. Oh my
Okay,
gosh,
insane.
it's the worst. I
Yes,
cannot smoke weed. Yeah.
yes. So I would just smoke it to fit in, but I hated it. But it was easier to get than alcohol at that age. So
Mm,
anytime there was alcohol, though, I chose that.
mm,
And then this is where I was watching a YouTube video, and it was a rave, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Because remember, this is 2000, like 7 or 2008, something like that. So like YouTube was still new, and so I saw these rave videos of people like shuffling, and I was like, "Oh!" And this is before it was popular. I was like, "Dude, that is cool!" And it's like ecstasy. It's a pill that makes you feel happy, horny, and you dance all night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those are three amazing things. Like, I want that pill. And so I believe I've always had the gift of manifesting without even knowing it. Because I saw that video and I was like, I want that. And then literally, I want to say maybe a month later, a friend of mine was like, hey, are you down to do some ecstasy? I was like, what? You have that? He's like, yeah, my friend has it. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been like watching videos on that. Yes. So the first time I
wow.
took it, I was like, "Oh, this is the best thing. Like this is better than alcohol. I want to take this every day." And so then I started doing ecstasy before my actual friend circle did. This is like another
Mm,
friend. So then I was the one taking ecstasy every day because again, I'm not in school, so I could take it
mm,
every night and sleep in and not have to wake up. I can wake up whenever I want. And my mom was going to work, and my dad's not in the picture, so it was just me at the house. So it fueled it, and yeah, and then from there we ended up going to LA County. We had to move from OC to LA, and then I had an older cousin, so I was stoked. I was like, yes, I got a male cousin, older. He drinks, smokes, skateboards. Yes, until my cousin got into the gang life. He started becoming a gangster, and so because of that, and I wanted to fit in, I wanted to go that route. So what he was doing now was instead of just drinking, smoking, he was going to cocaine. So I started doing cocaine, crack. I did crack, and then he got into meth. Then I get into meth, and then that's where my second traumatic thing happened, where I got molested for 6 months because when I was smoking meth at 14, I had no idea what it does. Right, I'm just smoking this thing. I feel really good. Well, it makes people really sexual. That's what it does. It makes people feel really sexual. And so now this 14-year-old kid, there's this older man that's a neighbor friend, um, and I ended up getting molested. But the problem was because I was under the influence of meth, because I was sexually abused as a kid, it didn't feel wrong because there was
mm.
physical arousal. So I had no idea that it's wrong, and I'm high. So I don't know what's really happening in that moment. It's kind of like when people get drunk and they hook up, and like, damn, why'd I do that? You know? But I'm a 14-year-old kid
Yeah.
on meth, but on meth at 14. And so to me, it was like after I was going on and on and on, then I started to realize like this isn't right because I can't smoke meth like other drugs. Like it's really messing me up. And so then after that, I came to this realization of it's my fault though, because it felt right. And I went back. And even though I was 14 and this guy was in his 50s, I felt like it was my fault. It was my fault as a kid. It was my fault as a teenager. So I had to shame myself and shut it down. And then after a couple months, we ended up moving back to OC, and I was able to get away from it. And that's how I got away
Mm,
from that. But now I have these two traumatic things that I have to hide.
mm. My gosh. And so what was your solution then when you got back to OC? Were you wanting to get clean, or were you just like, this is the way I do life now because living sober is too painful?
Yeah, so when I was about 15 when I went back, and I didn't know anything about therapy, self help. I didn't, right? It was just like remember nobody knows about what's going on inside of me. So my way to cope with it was to just drown it with alcohol. I was like, okay, I won't touch meth. I won't do cocaine or crack. I'm just going to drink alcohol. That's what I do. And all my friends at that time, because, I was gone for about a year. So all my friends are like, dude, we're going to house parties now. And our friend has a truck. So I was like, oh, perfect, dude. Like, I love to drink, dude. I could get alcohol. Let's party. So I became the party house. I
Mm,
became the guy that you sleep over at my house, guys. We get alcohol, and it was just drinking, drinking, drinking. I didn't have to smoke weed no more because we could get alcohol easier. So I was like, cool. Like I hate weed, so I was just drinking. Halloween parties, Christmas parties, Thanksgiving parties. house parties. I mean, anything you could think of. And I just became the party guy that you see, the typical guys with, like, beer bongs and, King's Cup and beer pong. And I created that character until about, I want to say 18. And at 18 years old, what happened when I was 18 was I took 20 pills of ecstasy. I overdosed, fell down a 20-foot ditch in the sewer, and woke up handcuffed to a nurse bed. Because I guess when I overdid the pills, I remember everything going white. And then I wake up in the hospital. What my friends told me was somebody broke into a house in our friend circle. And so cops were coming, and I was starting to overdose, and my friends were trying to grab me, but I was convulsing everywhere, and they couldn't grab me. And I started running around, and I tried climbing up this chain link fence, and I fell on the other side. And so they couldn't get me, so they didn't want to get arrested, so they all ran. And so the cops found me because I was moving so much. They had to, handcuff me to calm me down and take me to the hospital. And then they handcuffed me to the nurse bed. So once that happened, that's when my mom knew I did drugs, because she was in the hospital when I woke up. And that right there was my wake-up call, my first one. I was like, okay, I got to chill. Because deep down inside, I don't want to live like that. And so once that happens, I start working out. I meet a girl, and I kind of calm down. Because I'm codependent. So if I meet a girl, I calm down in the beginning. I become the best chef you got, the best boyfriend. I got the most patience. I'm super flexible with whatever you want to do. But again, it's all codependency trying to fix me. And so what happens is I meet this girl 3 years into the relationship. She leaves me. And it was a toxic relationship. I could say that now. But back then, I thought I only blamed her because she cheated on me. And I thought because she cheated on me because I was molested and sexual abuse. So that was my mindset back then, before I became aware of my sobriety. But back then I thought she did it because I was molested and sexually abused. She saw that thing in me, that the white women leave. So I self-destruct, try killing myself. And after that, I'm about 21 years old. I get fired from a job. And then again, something clicks, right? It's like, Fausto, like, this is not you. So I have my second wake-up call. Get a job as a server, bartender, a DJ. I'm 21 years old. People get paid to party, do cocaine and drink. I'm like, man, this is the life. So then now at this point, I'm taking steroids. I get 200 pounds. I'm in shape. I meet a girl, of course, at the bar. We start dating. I'm driving now. I got my license. And I'm like, dude, this is the life. 3 years go by, same thing, right? At the time, because she cheated on me as well, at the time I thought, wow, no matter how many times I change my style, no matter what type of job I get, no matter how in shape I get, how much money I get, all this stuff, I get cheated on in the end. So I self-destruct at 25. I tried killing myself. I had 30 grand mal seizures in a month. It was like really bad. I was doing about an ounce of cocaine a day, seizing out. And I remember just wanting to kill myself, like, constantly. And that was my third wake-up call, which was my rock bottom for me. And that's the one that I reached out for help, and which started my journey of AA, was that one, because I just couldn't see past that pain, because I was just mad at God. I was like, God, if you're real, why was I molested? Why was I sexually abused? Why was my dad a narcissist and not around? Why did we grow up in poverty? My mom got cancer too at this time. So I was like, the one person that was always nice to me, even though I manipulated my mom, I yelled at my mom, I used her, all that stuff, you give her cancer. So she was going through chemo, and I already felt alone and not good enough. And so it was all that when I was 25 was added that made my rock bottom, which is why I reached out for help. And then luckily that person that I reached out for help read some scripture from the Bible, and it was that God gives his strongest battles to his strongest warriors. And for the first time in 25 years, I felt relief. I felt as if I had a migraine headache for 25 years, and someone just read some wisdom, and all of a sudden, just like that, went away. And it was the feeling that got me addicted to wanting to get sober, because that feeling was what I was looking for my whole life, was relief. And so that's what took me to the rooms of AA, and that's what started my journey.
That's amazing. So was that 2017 when that happened?
Yeah, 2017 is where I had the perception of it didn't happen to me, it happened for me because I was strong enough to go through it to help other people grow through it. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. So, what did you hear that changed? Oh, like there was that beautiful scripture from the Bible, but once you
Yeah.
got into the rooms of recovery, what was it that you heard? What did you see that made you think, I want this life? I want to choose this life than the old way of what I've been doing for years and years that wasn't working?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, right? There was two words that really solidified me to want to go back to AA, and it was me too. Because I thought I was the only one experiencing that life. And so when I had that spiritual experience with the scripture, and I went to AA the next day, and I went up on the podium the first day because I was a newcomer, I guess. So when I got there, they're like, "Hey, any newcomers?" And I was like, "Oh, is that me?" They're like, "Yeah." Like, "Okay, you got to share." I went, "Okay." And I have bad social anxiety, so you can imagine. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know any of you guys." And it was a podium meeting. It wasn't like you sit down in your chair, but as I went up on the podium and I shared my story for the first time, like I just shared it with you, it was the first time. And that guy came up to me. He said, "Me too." That's what solidified it because I said, okay, if scripture says that I went through it for a reason to help people, I just shared it now for the first time in AA, and somebody said, "Me too. Thank you for sharing that." That means that was true, what I felt. And so
Mm.
that is why I was like, okay, what do I got to do? And they're like, get a sponsor, work the steps. And so because I got daddy issues, it wasn't a problem. I was like, oh, is my sponsor my new dad, right? AA, Abandonment's Anonymous, like I'm in. So I people pleased. I people pleased through my steps. Literally, like I was like, step one, did it. Step two, three, you believe in God? Yes. Step four, I'll do it. I went to a spaghetti factory, sat there by myself, did my 4-step, and I was like bragging about it to my server. I was like, hey, look, I'm doing this stuff. It's like a 4-step. Look, this is my trauma. And look at this, I'm forgiving. And God literally used my defect of my daddy issues to make me just go gung ho on those steps. And I'm glad I did because that was the best thing I could have people pleased my way through. Because
Yeah.
I experienced things like, through the steps. I felt God more. I felt connection. I found peace of mind. I found purpose. And those are the things that is what pushed me to where I'm at today, was just all those experiences with it.
Oh my gosh. I just love how you've described that. I was exactly the same. Like, I just wanted my sponsor to love me. So
Yeah.
I was going through the steps, like ticking the boxes, like done,
Yeah.
done, done, handed it in early, assignment's done, A
Yeah.
plus, please. And it's like, it wasn't until I realized that you'd never graduate the steps. Like, it's a
Yeah.
design for living, and it's something that we do forever, and that's an amazing thing. But at the time I was just like, I just want to get through it, and I want to get through it perfectly, and I want you to love me. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it, when it gets you to do the work? I'd rather have
Yeah.
had that experience than sitting on the outside of AA and just not ever giving it 100% and not ever getting to experience the gifts that are on the other side. So, Fausto, you do some incredible work in the space of recovery today, and that's what I really want to talk about
Yeah.
now. Let's join the dots. How did you go from that young man that stepped in 2017 to where you are now 6 years later? You're a counselor, you're a speaker, you're doing amazing things. Tell me about that journey and what inspired it.
Yeah. I had a vision when I got sober. And the vision was you're going to save a lot of people's lives. You know what I mean? It was that with your story. So that vision really motivated me to look at the world through that lens. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, I got to get good at speaking. I got to get good at, counseling. I got to get good at, serving people. Like I was trying to figure out. So to me, the way my brain works was I saw AA as a place for me to practice my speaking skills. See, I saw AA as a place for me to practice counseling because sponsorship. And then I was like, okay, well, I got to read books too. I was reading 5 books a week my first year. Yeah.
What?
Like
Oh my goodness.
even my girlfriend today, she trips out how much I read. She's like, you already read that book? We were literally driving. I was like, yeah, I read it. Like I became so obsessed with just growing and healing because of that vision. So that was like my why. And I knew every time I read a book, it's like I hang out with this person. Every time I read a book, I become smarter. I become more wise. So I was reading, I was exercising, I was eating better, I stopped watching TV. I mean, I was doing so many things and looking at everything that I was doing for recovery as my practice ground. And then so when I did that, then I got into working in treatment about 9 months into my sobriety. And I was like, oh, well, here's my opportunity now to help out addicts and get paid. So I saw that as like another nugget of hope. So I did that, and then I was like, cool. Now, how do I make more money doing this? Well, I saw someone's a counselor. Okay, what do? Go to school, get educated. So I did that, got my education, and then from there I was like, okay. Anytime I saw opportunities to speak at an event, I would say yes because like, oh, I have to say yes to this. Like, I'm going to speak to a different crowd. Oh, I got to speak for 20 minutes. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like this is all me practicing because this is what I'm getting ready for my future. And so it was this motivation behind that vision that made me say yes to things and put in the work. I went to theology school. I got a master's degree in that too because I wanted psychology and theology. I became a certified counselor. I became a life coach. And then I started being around celebrities and I was like, whoa, like this is cool. Now I'm around celebrities and this must be another sign that I'm going to help celebrities. And so I would just hang out and I would show up to everything and I would make time and I would do everything for free because I knew I was a rookie. Like, I don't know anything. I want to know stuff, but I trust God will bring the money when the time is right. So that's why people look at my Instagram like, dude, you're everywhere. I'm like, well, yeah, but I naturally have been doing this for 6 years because of that vision. That's why I say yes to everything and go places and show up. Even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. It was a moment for me to possibly learn something or meet someone that's going to change my life. And so after doing that, became an entrepreneur, started a group therapy business, started a business consulting business, started doing weekly meetings. They grew to about 500 people a week, sometimes 1,000. And I just got to meet so many amazing and cool people throughout that journey. And my life has just been blessed because of that. Not because I knew how it was going to work, because everything I planned for didn't work. It was always in a different way. But I've learned that by just being a loving, kind person wherever I go, and I don't make it about money, and I don't expect anything in return, I give first. For whatever reason, people like that, and then they want to bless me with money, and they want to bless me with opportunities. And so just by being that person and having faith is how I got all the things that I do know.
I love what you've just said there. It is about having faith, and you spoke about that vision so beautifully. But the other thing that's really clear to me is the action that you took to get there. Like, how important has actually been getting up and taking action been in your life?
I mean, it's everything. So like, it's almost like if we were to talk here, you and me for like 2 hours straight just on action, it would make sense to why I'm at where I'm at. You'd be like, oh, so it really is just doing the work. Like, it wasn't like you had a bunch of money, Fausto. It wasn't like somebody gave you an opportunity of a lifetime because you knew someone. It was not that. It was literally my first year was, okay, I get sober, one, I work my steps, and I'm sponsoring people. Okay, that's one. So, that takes a lot of time. Okay, and then I'm working 2 jobs to pay my bills. Okay, so that's busy. And then I was working out 3 to 5 times a week. I went vegetarian. I threw away my TV. I was reading 5 books a week. And I was showing up to jump rope events. I was showing up to DJ events. I was showing up to church events. I traveled to Oregon by myself for 7 days to go and find myself. I did silent retreats. I did fasting. I did a juice cleanse for 10 days, and I went on a road trip. I started making Instagram videos every day. I was on Instagram 24/7 making videos, whether they got likes or not, just doing it and collabing and doing podcasts and saying yes to even podcasts that has one view. It didn't matter. I was doing it. And as I'm going through this stuff, I had opportunities to go to Washington, D.C., but I had to pay for it. I had opportunities to go do a certification. I had to pay for it. And so I have done so many things, paid for so many things, doubted so many things, burnt out on so many things. I've had my heart broken. I've lost jobs. My mom got cancer again. I got cheated on. I've lost a pet. I almost relapsed many times. Like, a lot of bad things too have happened on top of all that action that I was putting in. And so it really just came down to putting in the work and staying sober no matter what, which means I'm helping somebody out constantly. That's what really is why I got all these things. Because I've been in school for 4 years, nonstop. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
Mm,
it's a lot. And so I've
mm,
always been doing
mm,
stuff. And then I got lucky. I say luck. I got lucky that I was at a spot where I met the most famous life coach in history for celebrities. He happened to be friends with my pastor. I didn't know that, but he was there. So I showed up all the time to get to know him. And then he introduced me to people. My pastor
mm.
opened up doors to me. My the jump rope, I became one of the best jump ropers in the world only because I jump roped every day, made videos every day, went to jump rope events. You know, I started my own business, yeah, but I was donating my time for 3 years. That's why when I started my business, people hired me. You know what I mean? Business
Mm.
consulting, yeah, but I worked in the industry for 5 years. That's how I started it. Well, what about the ministry you built? It's so amazing. Yeah, we've been doing this for 5 years. You're just seeing what it became after 5 years of trying to make it work. We had days it was 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. It's just Instagram just shows the results or a moment of a
Mm.
day. But if you turn around, there's 3 people there only. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see the hard work behind it. Fausto, that is like all of this is so, so inspiring. And like even just listening to you here, I'm like, it makes me want to do more. Like it's so cool to really understand the grit and the drive that goes behind the success. Can we shift gears for a moment? You've been talking, you touched on codependency, and you're in a relationship right now. And I'd really love to know, having had the trauma experience of not one, not two, but multiple partners cheat on you, how do you stop that trauma being carried
Oh,
into your new relationship?
man, it's amazing. No one's asked me this question. So like I'm so excited to answer this question because I answered it in my head, like for
Yeah.
myself. So okay, so so I don't recommend anybody do this, but these are a couple things how it worked out for me. Some I chose to do out of love, some I chose to do out of codependency, but there was a blessing out of it. So the first thing when I got sober, I went celibate. I knew that sex for me and relationships was not healthy. So when I went celibate for 8 months, I had time to look at my mind. Where does my mind go when I'm single and sober? You know what I mean? I want to know. So
Mm.
I had a fear of being alone and a fear of being unlovable. So if I'm with somebody, then I'm not alone. Two, if someone loves me, then that means I'm lovable. You see what I mean? So it helped me
Mm-hmm.
kind of like hide from those. And then I'm insecure, but in the honeymoon phase, I become secure. You know what I mean? Because it's just drunk on love. And so I
Yeah.
realized that too. I was like, oh, I'm insecure no matter what. It's just the honeymoon phase. Okay. So I learned that. And then I learned that sex to me meant love because of being sexually abused. So sex to me meant it never happened. And also sex to me was introduced so early to me that that's how I connected love with. If you didn't have sex with me, that means you don't love me. So after learning those things and going through the celibacy, when I got 8 months sober, I thought God sent me a girl, of course, right? Because, oh God, I've never seen her in this AA meeting that I go to every week. She must be the one, right? Because I have the one syndrome, but everybody's the one in my eyes. I go, I've been married 50 times in my head. I got girlfriends in my past. They didn't even know they were my girlfriend. I never told them because I never talked to them. So, so when I thought this girl sent me, God sent this girl. Of course, I moved her in a week later. So you start to see, like, all right, Fausto, even after 8 months of celibacy, you're still sick. But
Mm.
after a month, I called my sponsor and I was like, "Uh-oh, I messed up." He goes, "I know." And I go, "What do I do?" He's like, "Well, why don't you just break up?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to do that. I've never broken up with anybody. They break up with
Mm.
me."
Mm.
So I found the guts to break up, and it wasn't easy. I broke up after her baptism. How messed up is that? But I never did it, and I was just like, I just got to say it. So I break up with her, and I didn't go back. That's when I knew there was some growth. So God needed me to go through that scenario to see that I can actually break up with someone when I see red flags. Because red flags didn't seem like red flags in my past because it felt like home. So it was green to me. So I saw growth. Then I met a girl about 12 months sober, about a year. We hooked up and I felt nothing. And that's when I realized, oh, I can't just have sex. Like, I need a connection. So it was good to know that, because I was like, I learned about myself. So then I got in a relationship for 2 years, and to me, it was my best relationship at that time. No drugs, no alcohol. It wasn't really fight. It wasn't toxic, but of course, it didn't work out. I got cheated on, but the lesson in that was I was still chasing the love of my dad, right? Someone who's still self-centered, controlling, but it was just different because it wasn't drinking, it wasn't drugs. It was just more, behavior. So I didn't see it yet, but I needed that scenario to sit with the pain of getting cheated on, because I cheated on my partners in my addiction, right? I did, because it was my way to get back. It was my way to run away, whatever it was. It was toxic. It wasn't right. So I needed to get cheated on in a sober state of mind, to sit with it in sobriety, so I know what it feels like, so I never cheat on my future wife. Also, it showed me that you can stay sober through getting cheated on, because my worst nightmare was getting cheated on, because that's been my whole story. So to see that I could stay sober through that, to know what the pain's like, to never do that pain, it pushed me into EMDR therapy, which totally healed a part of me that AA couldn't, that God couldn't. I needed EMDR therapy. It took away the trauma from my body, so now I can feel safe in a relationship. I can feel safe in intimacy, and I can communicate my needs. I can set boundaries, and I can walk away. So that put me in that. Then this is one of those parts. But then I got into an open relationship, because I still had a little codependency in me, right? And I was like, well, the girl was like, well, my therapist said I'm meant to be in an open relationship. And I'm like, well, that's what I do for work. And if I told my client that, I wouldn't say you couldn't do that. Let's try it out. Oh my gosh. Talk about facing every insecurity I've ever had. I had to literally be okay with being like, hey, what guy do you think is cute in this restaurant? And they should go, that one. And I would be like, wow, he looks nothing like me. Oh my gosh, he's taller than me, doesn't have facial hair, like he's in shape. And it was like, well, yeah, that's my type. And I'm like, then what am I? So that forced me to work through that insecurity of like, why do you feel so insecure about it? Do you think you're not good enough? Do you think I'm going to leave you because somebody else is attractive? It made me look at myself. And so I was going to therapy at this time a lot. I told my therapist, I was like, I'm trying this. He goes, sounds like it's your codependency, but we'll work through it. So he showed me love through it, and I worked through that. And then it was like seeing her with another woman. And you would think as guys, it'd be like, oh, that's probably easy. No, it's not, because I saw passion in their eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't sound like that with me. What's going on? You want to hang out with her more than me? And so I had to work through that. And it was just a fear of not being good enough. It was a fear that people don't love me. It was all coming to my mind. And then when it got into swinging and all that, it was just such a crazy experience, but it taught me this. It forced me to look at all my insecurities head on, like actually live it, process it, understand it. And that type of community, the one thing I respect about them the most, communication is on another level. Because you literally get to say everything. Like, hey, I think that girl's cute. How does that make you feel? Oh, you feel a little bit insecure about it. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Do you want me to talk about it in a fantasy, what I want to do to her first before I actually hit her up to go on a date? Then you want me to tell you about the dates? Do you want me to kiss her in front of you, hold her hand? It was such an incredible experience that I can look at now from when it was going on. But that is what helped me become secure. And that's what helped me understand I don't want to do that, because I can only handle one woman at a time. My brain, I can't even fathom two people's emotions, because when I had two of them with problems, I'm like, dude, I got ADD. I can't even handle this. Or you're mad at me because our second girlfriend is mad at you for what I said, and now you're mad at me because she's mad. I'm like, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So that experience got me secure. It taught me raw communication, and it got me to a point of, I know now, if you cheat on me, and if you don't want to be with me, that's okay. It has nothing to do with me. And I understand that. And if you find somebody else that makes you happier than me, then that makes me happy, because I want you to be happy. So now as I come into this relationship I'm in now, which is a monogamous relationship, I was able to, from day one, say, these are my non-negotiables. This is what I need. This is what I want. And if we're going to have sex at one point, I want to take it slow because I need an emotional, spiritual, and mental connection first. And when we have sex, you can never, ever try to be the assertive one in bed with me because it reminds me of being raped as a kid. So don't put your hand like this. Don't put too much pressure here. Don't do that. And if you're cool with that, let's move forward with it. And so it really gave me the skills to walk into this relationship, and she respected it. She understood it. And so in this year and a half of being together, the communication, I get to practice it. Not perfect, but we do great. You know, the intimacy is amazing because we get to take it slow and communicate. And I've really been able to learn how to be in a healthy relationship, how to receive love, how to give love. I can make a mistake and not think it's the end of the world. You know, I don't have to worry about her, like she's going to leave me. And there's a sense of security where it's like, have all the freedom you want to do anything you want, but just know that means I want the freedom to do what I want because I'm not going to put my needs aside just to please you because I know you can't make me happy. Only God can. And but I will do my best to put you first after my recovery because I still believe that's a need. But now I won't hang out with you 7 days a week like I used to because I know I don't need that no more. So that experience really helped me to be able to function in a healthy relationship.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. That was like so cool to get that insight into the experience.
Yeah.
And what you tried, what worked, what didn't work, and like how you've gotten to where you are today in your current relationship. So thank you for sharing that. Now, Fausto, I really want to know what inspired your name, The Hope Dealer?
So people used to always say like, man, you're so inspirational. You're so motivational. And then when I met my pastor, he had this term called hope dealers. I saw it. I was like, oh, what is that? Dope dealer to hope dealer. I'm like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So then after a while, I kind of embodied it because people are like, man, you spread hope. You spread hope. You ooze hope. They're like, you are the hope dealer. Like, you are the hope dealer. Like, the one. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to take that name in and I'm going to run with it. And so then it just became kind of like what I do. And I've been trying to build my brand off of that, right? As like the hope dealer. I'm the guy who spreads hope for your struggles, for your healing, and for your dreams. And that's how I've embodied it.
It's beautiful. And I've heard you say that your mission is really to help people feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel loved.
Yeah, because that's what I didn't feel. I never felt like a priority. And so your wound in your childhood is what you tend to heal in others. So I do whatever I can to make people feel like a priority in my life. And when you feel like a priority, you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel understood.
It's so true, isn't it? I also heard you say something which I think is so beautiful and really resonates with me. You said everybody is recovering from something. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think in addiction recovery, we think that recovery is just for recovering off of alcohol and drugs. But really, everybody's in recovery from something, right? Whether it's from heartbreak, financial things going on, codependency, food, cutting themselves, depression, anxiety. Everyone's hurting, and everyone's going through something. And that's something that I learned from a Buddhist monk was that, like, you know, hey, we're all in recovery, brother. He told me, and I really sat with that, and it really made me look at everybody as one instead of the normies and the addicts. You know what I mean? It's like we're all going through something.
Totally. And it's that connection piece, isn't it? Like reaching out and asking for help, knowing that you don't have to do this alone. That's what's worked for me and what I've seen work for so many others. It's just that knowing that no matter what kind of recovery you're in, like it's something that we do together. That's the power of human connection.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, I've got a couple more questions. I feel like I could talk to you for hours.
You keep it coming. I'm telling you, because you're asking me questions I never get asked, and so I get excited. I'm like that relationship one. I've never told anybody that online. Nobody has that information. Only the people that know me personally laugh at that story too. They're like, "Oh my gosh."
Well, we feel very honored here at Behind the Smile. Okay, Fausto, talk to me about manifesting. You said really early on in our conversation that you feel like you've been able to manifest since you were young, but how does that actually play out in your life today?
Yeah. So, okay. So when I look back at my life, because I did this thing where like I talked to you how about like I manifested getting that ecstasy. Like, what were the chances?
Mm, mm.
And I remember when I was 18, I really wanted to work at a skate shop. And then I got a job at a skate shop. And then I remember I wanted a new job. And all of a sudden there was a job fair when I was 20 out of like 1,000 people. And I manifested getting the job, you know? And I've always been good at like meeting famous people, getting invited to cool events, and just like always cool stuff, even to my addiction. Like I was always with pro skateboarders, pro videographers, pro hip hop artists. Like I manifested being a bartender at my favorite bar. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I've always had that. And so when I got sober, I applied that same type of thinking, which was I saw something I really want. I'm going to act like I already have it. And I'm just going to surround myself with the people, the places that may give me that opportunity. And so, like jumping rope, when I got sober from day one, my jump rope was made by Buddy Lee. He's the number one jump roper in the world. He's an Olympic athlete. I mean, he's legit. Like spoken like 8,000 speeches, and I was like, I'm going to tell this guy his jump rope saved my life. I'm going to shake his hand like this, say your jump rope saved my life. So I put that in my head. And so what does that mean? I got to jump rope every day because obviously I got to get good. Why would you want to talk to me? Two, I got to post it on Instagram because how is anyone going to know that I jump rope? And then I did that, acted like I hung out with him. I was like, oh yeah, me and Buddy Lee got dinner last week. They're like, really? I'm like, well, no, but I'm manifesting it, not lying. And after that year span, I saw myself go from people saying, oh, you're really good. There's a nugget. And then all of a sudden, this guy came to do a jump rope meetup in Venice Beach. I was like, well, I have to go to that because this is what I got to do. Show up. And you know me, I'm like sharing my story with everybody there because I have to. I went a jump rope competition. And then the number one jump rope channel in the world, those two guys were there to meet this guy. So I got to meet them. They did a story on me. That went viral. And then the number one jump rope guy in the world was doing a workshop at a CrossFit gym in my city. So I go to that because, of course, I got to. He might be there. He wasn't there, but his partner was there. He knew who I was from social media. And then they gave me some free jump rope. So that's a good sign. And then a couple months later, that guy calls me finally, the number one guy. I'm doing a jump rope thing in Washington, D.C. If you want to get certified, I know about you, brother. You're doing amazing things. I said, cool. Well, how much does it cost? He's like $600 for the certification. I looked at the flight, hotel, car. It was like 1,400. And then I was like, oh, well, I don't have money. Well, I guess I messed up. But then somebody overheard me and said, well, why don't we do a GoFundMe page for you? I don't like asking for things. So they made it. I made the money within a couple hours. I got to go. And then I'm sitting at Benny Honda's with this guy. He goes, what do you want to tell me? Shake his hand. Your jump rope saved my life. So I've applied that same method to everything that I do, from being a counselor to speaking at places to working with celebrities to podcast, I mean, everything, right? That's how I apply manifesting is figure out what you want, act like you have it, and put yourself around the people and learn the skills that it's going to take to get that opportunity. And if you keep on doing it, you will vibrate. You will have frequencies and energy oozing out of you that somebody's going to look at you and be like, I really want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Because you're in that frequency with what you want to do and with them. And so that's what I've applied to everything in my life. And it's been life-changing.
So what are you manifesting right now?
Oh, man. I would say, I think I'm just trying to manifest an abundance of wealth where I don't have to work as much because I'm getting paid a lot more for helping others than I ever have. That's like the next thing, right? Because I do a lot of cool stuff. I have a big event I raised a bunch of money for in December. We're going to have about 1,000 people come for Christmas for Addicts.
Awesome.
And I got famous happening? In Anaheim, California, right by Disneyland.
Cool. Great.
And I got a bunch of sponsors and stuff. I'm working with like all these famous people right now, doing amazing things. But I think now I want to get to that point where it's like, hey, Fausto, we'll pay you $10,000 if you come speak at the school. Sweet. I can say yes to one opportunity a month if I wanted to. It'd be chill. And so that's kind of where I want to get to next, because I want to have more freedom of time. but I want to be able to do what I love too as well. And so that's the next vision, is to, God, just show me my worth, and I can see myself doing that for the rest of my life, and just speaking and traveling and loving on people.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's beautiful. It's almost like we've come full circle from the very beginning of this conversation when we were talking about that desire to find balance, and how it's something that, for both of us right now, we're still looking for it, and it's something that we can strive towards, which is awesome. Okay, there's one final question that I've got for you, Fausto, and it's a question that I ask all of my guests, and something that we finish on here at Behind the Smile. The question for you is, what are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, joyous, and free?
3 non-negotiables. Okay. It has to be, I would say this, you got to love people. It has to always be about the people. 3 non-negotiables for me to live my life. I got to live in purpose, and I got to live in service. People,
beautiful.
Service, and I already forgot the other one because my ADD.
No, I love that. I love that. It's like when you're waking up every day and you're living your purpose, but you're also able to be of service, that's like the golden nugget, really, like you were sharing before, because you get that sense of like self-esteem, but you also get that sense of freedom, and then there's wealth and there's abundance and all those things. I think that's absolutely beautiful. Fausto, I can't thank you enough for coming along today and being a part of the show. We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one needs suffer in silence. So thank you for everything that you do, for being the hope dealer, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here. Thank you so much for the amazing questions. Thank you for your time and your energy. And I just pray that blessings and miracles and healing come your way, and that all your guests can hear something from this that's going to help them find hope and their struggles, their healing, and their dreams. And just, I'm grateful to now have you as a friend in my life.
Oh, likewise. And Fausto, if people want to check out more about you, where should they go?
Instagram, Hope Dealer Fausto. On there, I always post videos of motivation, hope, just lots of positive things. I offer a subscription for $10 a month. You get counseling from me. You get community with me, which is amazing. It's affordable. Facebook is where a lot of people in recovery get a hold of me, and I'm always doing stuff on there. And if you're local in Orange County, California, every Sunday we have a recovery meeting from 300 to 500 people with live music, comedians, speakers, and free food. It's at the Magic House, and it's 1567 West Embassy Street, Anaheim, California, Sundays at 6 p.m.
Oh my goodness. Well, the next time I get over there, I'm coming to join you. I can't
wait. When are you going to come?
Look, let's put it on the manifest list for next year. I love to travel, and I haven't been to the US since 2019, so definitely overdue for a trip. You're on your side of the world. Fausto, thank you once again. Blessings. Have a gorgeous night.
You as well.
Bye.
A big thank you for tuning in today. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by clicking the subscribe button and leaving a review. Every review helps this podcast become more discoverable, meaning more people can hear these stories of strength and hope. Together, we will continue to remove the stigma around mental health, trauma, and addiction. Remember to reach out to those you care about, and I'll see you next time.